If you stepped inside an American or British home on a quiet, breezy Tuesday evening in 1967, you would instantly recognize a comforting symphony of sights, sounds, and smells that have completely vanished from the modern world. You'd hear the distinct, heavy tick of a grandfather clock in the hall, the soft rhythmic hum of a tube television warming up in the corner, and you'd catch the faint, clean scent of fresh lavender wax on highly polished linoleum. They were warm, tactile sanctuaries built of heavy wood, colorful fabrics, and everyday rituals that brought us closer together. But as the decades quietly rolled by, the objects that defined our daily lives, items we used, touched, and looked at every single day, silently slipped away. Today we are opening the door to the past, stepping across the threshold of memory, and looking back at 15 everyday things found in almost every 1960s home that have mysteriously disappeared. Number 1. The wooden console television set. In the 1960s, the television wasn't a cold, thin sheet of black plastic mounted flat against a wall like a piece of glass. It was a massive, majestic piece of fine household furniture, known proudly as the console television. These heavy wooden cabinets were crafted from real walnut, mahogany, or maple, and they stood firmly on the floor like a sacred anchor in the living room. They were so heavy that it took 2 grown men just to move them an inch. If you grew up in this era, you remember that the TV was the undisputed heart of the home. It didn't have a remote control. If you wanted to change the channel from BBC to ITV, or from CBS to NBC, you had to physically get up, walk across the room, and twist a heavy dial that went clack clack clack, and because it ran on vacuum tubes, you couldn't just turn it on instantly. You had to wait a minute or two for the tubes to warm up, watching a small glow grow inside the cabinet until the picture finally filled the screen. When the television wasn't in use, the top of the wooden cabinet served as a beautiful mantle, proudly displaying framed family portraits, a lace doily, or a ceramic bowl. It was a beautiful piece of craftsmanship that brought the entire family together every single evening, and its disappearance left our living rooms just a little bit colder. Number 2. The hallway telephone bench, the gossip bench. Long before we carried phones in our pockets or walked around the house while chatting, making a telephone call was a stationary, highly respected event, and in almost every mid-century home, it had its very own designated station, the hallway telephone bench, commonly known as the gossip bench. This clever piece of furniture combined a small, comfortable seat with a side table, specifically designed so you could sit down and settle in for a long conversation. It sat proudly in the hall with a central junction of the house because the telephone cord was thick, heavy, and physically wired straight into the wall. If you wanted to chat with your sister, check on a neighbor, or catch up with a friend, you sat right there on that padded vinyl seat, spinning the heavy rotary dial and listening to the mechanical clicks. Because the bench was in the hallway, there was absolutely no such thing as a private phone call. The entire household could hear every single word you said. Yet sitting on that bench, holding that heavy, solid plastic receiver to your ear, felt incredibly special. It was a cozy, dedicated corner of the home that turned a simple conversation into a cherished daily ritual, a far cry from the rushed, distracted phone calls of today. Number 3. The S&H Green Stamps book. Long before the days of digital cashback apps, plastic loyalty cards, or smartphone reward points, there was a completely different kind of currency that filled the kitchen drawers of millions of homes. In America, they were known as S&H Green Stamps, and across the Atlantic in Britain, they were Green Shield Stamps. Every single time your mother went to the local grocery store or filled up the family car at the gas station, the cashier wouldn't just hand back change, they would dispense a long perforated strip of tiny green paper stamps. The ritual that followed was a beloved family affair. On a quiet evening, the kitchen table would be covered in these little green squares and a stack of paper collection booklets. The kids would eagerly help, licking the sticky backs of the stamps or pressing them against a damp sponge, carefully pasting them into the grids, page by page. A full book of stamps was a badge of pure domestic pride. You would save them for months, stacking the completed booklets neatly in a drawer until you had enough to go on a grand family trip to the local redemption center. Stepping inside that center felt like entering a magical department store. By handing over your hard-earned books of green stamps, you could walk out with a brand new toaster, a set of shiny mixing bowls, a lawn chair, or a toy for the children. It taught us the beautiful, slow art of patience and saving, and filling those books is a sweet, tactile memory that modern digital points simply can't replace. Number 4. The massive glass ashtray. If you walked into a living room in the 1960s, there was one staple object sitting right at the center of the coffee table, regardless of whether anyone in the house actually smoked. It was the massive, heavy glass ashtray. These weren't the tiny, disposable metal dishes you see today. They were substantial, heavy works of art, often weighing several pounds. Made from thick colored glass in shades of deep amber, emerald green, or vibrant orange. They were so solidly built that they felt completely indestructible. Back then, smoking was a normal, everyday part of adult social life. When guests came over for tea or an evening drink, hospitality meant immediately sliding the heavy glass dish to the center of the table. But even in strictly non-smoking households, these beautiful glass pieces were a permanent design fixture. Mothers across America and Britain loved them purely for their mid-century aesthetic. When they weren't holding matches, they were washed clean and used to hold colorful wrapped hard candies, loose buttons, or paper clips. They were smooth, cold to the touch, and added a splash of beautiful, translucent color to the warm wood of our living rooms. Today, social habits have shifted, and these heavy glass sculptures have quietly vanished from our homes. Number 5. The Porch Milk Box. Long before we bought our milk in plastic jugs from massive supermarket cold cases, breakfast arrived directly on our doorsteps, and sitting right outside the front door of almost every home was a dedicated, insulated porch milk box, made of heavy-duty galvanized tin or sturdy wood, and lined with thick insulation. These boxes were a permanent fixture of daily domestic life. They were built to protect the family's dairy supply from the elements, keeping the milk beautifully cold on hot summer mornings, and preventing it from freezing solid during bitter winter nights. Comforting clatter of the milkman's wire crate coming up the driveway. You knew exactly what was waiting for you inside that box. Beautiful. Heavy glass bottles topped with bright, colorful aluminum foil caps. If you got to the box early enough on a winter morning, you might even find that the cream at the top of the bottle had frozen and expanded, pushing the silver foil cap straight up like a little top hat. Children loved the responsibility of opening the porch box, lifting out the cold, sweating glass bottles, and carrying them carefully into the kitchen. It was a beautiful, trusting system built on local community connection, and when those little metal boxes vanished from our porches, we lost a sweet piece of morning magic. Number 6. The hand-knit Zigzag Afghan blanket. If you snuggled up on the sofa to watch a movie on a chilly winter evening in the late 1960s, you didn't reach for a mass-produced fleece-throw blanket bought from a supermarket shelf. Instead, every single home had a heavy, colorful, hand-knit masterpiece proudly draped over the back of the couch, the Afghan blanket, most often crafted using the iconic ripple or zigzag crochet stitch. These blankets were a vibrant explosion of mid-century colors. You saw them in rich combinations of avocado green, burnt orange, deep mustard yellow, and chocolate brown. They weren't bought from a store. They were crafted with pure love. They were handmade by mothers, grandmothers, or aunties who spent countless evening hours rhythmically clicking their crochet hooks together while listening to the radio or the evening news. Because they were made from leftover scraps of yarn, no two Afghans were ever exactly alike. They had a wonderful, comforting weight to them, and entirely insulated from the cold world outside. Even if the loud color patterns eventually went out of style, that blanket was the very definition of home. It was a cozy, handmade hug that lasted for generations, and its absence has left our modern sofas looking just a little bit empty. Number 7. The Formica Dinette Set with chrome legs. Long before modern kitchens were filled with heavy granite countertops and dark, matching wooden tables, the absolute heart of the mid-century home was a bright, gleaming masterpiece of post-war design, the Formica Dinette Set, with its sleek, slender, tubular chrome legs and its brightly colored vinyl chairs. This table was built for the bustling rhythm of everyday family life. The tops were made of Formica revolutionary, space-age laminate that came in wonderful pastel shades or playful retro patterns, like the famous cracked ice or mid-century boomerangs. Mothers absolutely loved it because it was practically indestructible. You could spill hot black coffee, drop greasy bacon, or let the children color with thick crayons directly on the surface. And with a quick wipe of a damp dishcloth, it looked brand new again. This table was where real life happened. It was where you sat to eat your morning cereal before school, where your mother chopped vegetables for Sunday lunch, and where the family gathered under the warm kitchen light to play board games or do homework in the evening. It didn't pretend to be formal or fancy. It was bright, practical, and incredibly cheerful. When these chrome-legged tables eventually vanished from our kitchens, we swapped their bright, easy charm for a world of muted, modern colors, and our morning breakfasts haven't felt quite the same since. Number 8. The brass fireplace coal scuttle. Long before modern central heating systems hummed quietly in the background at the touch of a digital thermostat, staying warm in the winter was a hands-on, deeply sensory family effort. And if you lived in Britain or the colder regions of North America, every single hearth featured a striking piece of heavy-duty metalwork, the brass coal scuttle. These heavy brass or copper buckets sat proudly on the fireplace hearth. If you grew up in this era, you remember that keeping the home warm required real physical discipline. It was often a father's or an older child's proud duty to go out to the cold, dark coal bunker in the backyard, fill the scuttle to the brim, and carry the heavy weight back into the living room. There was a wonderful ritual to it. On a bitter evening, as the family gathered around the hearth, you would hear the heavy. Within minutes, the room would fill with an intense, deep, radiant heat that modern radiators simply cannot replicate. The scuttle itself required a regular, loving polish with brasso to keep it shining like gold against the dark brickwork. When coal fires were phased out for clean gas and electricity, these beautiful brass vessels disappeared from our hearths, taking with them the cozy, crackling soul of the mid-century winter evening. Number 9. The metal slide projector and screen. Long before smartphones made it possible to share vacation photos instantly with the touch of a screen, sharing family memories was a major, anticipated theatrical production. It required a brilliant piece of household technology, the metal slide projector, housed in a sturdy, heavy metal casing that got incredibly hot to the touch. This machine was the ultimate keeper of family history. Whenever a family returned from their summer holiday, the small cardboard or plastic-mounted slides would be carefully loaded into a circular carousel or a straight metal tray. If you grew up in this wonderful era, you remember the excitement when Dad announced a slideshow night. The living room curtains were pulled tight. The moment the projector was switched on, a brilliant beam of light would slice through the darkness, revealing tiny dust motes dancing in the air. Then came that unforgettable sound, the heavy mechanical word-chug clunk as the machine dropped the first slide into place. Seaside trips and Christmas mornings. Sometimes a slide would go in upside down, causing the whole room to burst into laughter while Dad scrambled to fix it. It was a slow, shared, and deeply intimate way to celebrate family life, and when those projectors went dark. Number 10. The matching kitchen canister set. In the 1960s, instead, the hallmark of a tidy, organized kitchen was a beautiful, matching set of nesting kitchen canisters. These sets almost always came in a group of 4, perfectly proportioned for the big 4 kitchen staples: flour, sugar, coffee, and tea. They were a brilliant reflection of the era's design trends, available in gleaming chrome, spun aluminum with copper accents, or durable plastic in iconic colors like avocado green, harvest gold, and robin's egg blue. If you grew up in this era, you remember these canisters weren't just decorative. They were the absolute workhorses of daily baking and cooking. The lids had tight rubber seals that kept everything incredibly fresh, and opening them up was a daily sensory experience. You knew exactly which canister to reach for just by its size and the beautiful. When a mother was baking a Sunday cake or scooping out loose tea leaves for an afternoon brew, the rhythmic popping of those canister lids was the background track to the kitchen. They gave the entire room a sense of pride, cleanliness, and mid-century order. Today, with modern kitchens hidden behind minimalist cabinets and pre-packaged goods, these proud countertop sets have quietly faded away, taking a piece of cozy kitchen character with them. Number 11. The living room record storage rack. Long before music became an invisible stream of digital data floating through the air, listening to your favorite song was a deeply physical, tactile experience. And sitting right next to the stereogram or record player in almost every home was a dedicated wire record storage rack, often made of gleaming brass-plated wire or sleek black metal. These racks featured a row of narrow, triangular slots designed to keep your precious 12-inch vinyl LPs and 7-inch singles standing perfectly upright. Leaving your records lying flat was an absolute sin, as the summer heat could easily warp the vinyl. If you grew up in this era, you remember the immense pride of building your very own music collection. Flipping through that rack was a daily after-school ritual. You'd run your fingers across the top of the cardboard jackets, hearing that familiar flick sound as you searched for the perfect album. You knew every album cover by heart, whether it was the Beatles, Frank Sinatra, or Cliff Richard. Once you made your choice, you carefully slid the heavy vinyl disc out, held it gently by the edges to avoid fingerprints, and placed it onto the turntable. The rack wasn't just storage, it was a visual map of your youth, your taste, and your memories, proudly displayed for every guest to see. When digital formats took over, these simple wire racks quietly disappeared, and music lost its beautiful, physical home in our living rooms. Number 12. The heavy, tufted, crushed velvet sofa. In the 1960s, a living room sofa wasn't a stiff, minimalist bench designed to look good in a catalog. It was a massive, heavy, and undeniably luxurious island of pure comfort. And the undisputed king of the mid-century living room was the heavy, tufted, crushed velvet sofa, often stretching out in a dramatic, low-slung silhouette. They featured deep, diamond-patterned tufting held together by heavy fabric-covered buttons sunk deep into the cushions. If you grew up in this era, sitting on this couch was a true sensory experience. The fabric had a magical quality. When you ran your hand across it, the texture would instantly change from bright and shimmering to deep and dark, depending on which way you brushed the fibers. These sofas were built like tanks. Underneath that soft velvet layer was a heavy, solid hardwood frame and massive steel coil springs that caught you like a cloud when you sat down. It was the ultimate place for families to pile into on a Sunday night, stretching out from armrest to armrest with room to spare. As living room styles shifted toward flat, modern fabrics and simple lines, these grand velvet thrones quietly disappeared. Number 13. The Formica salt and pepper shakers with chrome accents. In the 1960s, even the smallest, most ordinary items on a mother's kitchen table were treated to the exciting, space-age design treatment of the era. You couldn't just have plain glass jars for your seasonings. Instead, almost every home featured a beautiful, stylized set of Formica and chrome salt and pepper shakers, often designed in elegant, sweeping teardrop or atomic rocket silhouettes. These sets were a perfect match for the kitchen's dinette table. They blended the durability of pastel-colored Formica laminates in shades of mint green, flamingo pink, or turquoise with gleaming mirror-polished chrome bands around their middles. If you grew up in this wonderful era, these shakers were a permanent fixture of every single family meal. There were no modern grinder tops or plastic flip caps back then. You simply tilted the heavy shaker and listened to the rhythmic shik-shik as the salt fell through the tiny, starburst-shaped holes in the metal top. They stood proudly at the center of the table through every breakfast, lunch, and Sunday roast, a subtle testament to the pride mid-century families took in making even the simplest everyday objects beautiful. When modern, disposable plastic grinders took over our tables. Number 14. The heavy cast-iron waffle maker. Long before modern electric waffle irons with non-stick Teflon coatings and automatic digital timers plugged into our kitchen walls, making a special weekend breakfast was a heavy-duty, traditional craft. In the 1960s, the undisputed champion of Sunday morning was the heavy cast-iron waffle maker. These weren't flimsy appliances. They were incredibly solid, heavy pieces of cookware made from thick, raw cast iron. They didn't have cords. Instead, they were designed to sit directly over the open flame of your gas stove or the hot plate of an electric range. If you grew up in this era, you remember that using one of these irons was a true labor of love. It had to be meticulously seasoned with oil, heated until it was screaming hot, and flipped at just the exact right moment based entirely on instinct and experience. Because cast iron holds heat so intensely, it produced waffles that were perfectly crisp and dark golden on the outside, while staying incredibly light and fluffy on the inside. The wire coil handles stayed cool to the touch, and the heavy clank-clang of the iron echoing through the house was the ultimate breakfast bell for the children. These indestructible kitchen relics were passed down through generations, but as light, plastic, electric appliances took over our countertops, these heavy iron treasures slowly found their way into the back of the pantry, taking a bite of crispy Sunday morning tradition with them. Number 15. The Chiffon rain shield bonnet. In the 1960s, a woman's hairstyle was a major investment of time, discipline, and hairspray. Whether she had just spent hours at the salon getting a fresh beehive, a bouffant, or a crisp roller set, her greatest and most terrifying enemy was a sudden downpour of rain. To combat the elements, every mother and grandmother carried a secret weapon in her purse, the chiffon rain shield bonnet. Made of thin, lightweight, and waterproof pleated plastic, these bonnets were engineered to fold down into a tiny square no larger than a matchbook, tucked neatly inside a little vinyl pouch. The moment a dark cloud appeared over an American or British street, you would see a marvelous transformation. Women everywhere would instantly halt, open their purses, and shake out their plastic bonnets with a sharp crinkle snap. They would pull the hood over their precious, gravity-defying hair and tie the long plastic ribbons into a neat bow right under their chin. It wasn't about high fashion. Walking down the street in the rain, you could hear the distinct patter of water hitting the tight plastic shield over your ears. It was a quirky, endearing sight that defined the era, testament to the pride women took in keeping their grace intact, no matter the weather. When hairstyles became looser and more natural in the decades that followed, these little plastic lifesavers quietly vanished from our handbags, leaving behind a charming, bittersweet memory of mid-century rain preservation.